with the electric eel, for example, I used to be terrified of them when I first started working with those eels. And anytime that we would have to do anything with them, I would be shaking, like absolutely shaking all over. When we had to move the eels or do medical examinations on them, any of that sort of thing. And we had to do one just earlier this year, and that was the first time I was not shaking while we were doing a whole electric eel move.
You always seem so confident with them. I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I'm glad that it comes off that way. But it took a lot of learning for me to, understand how the animal's going to move and understand how he's going to react to my movement and work with each other. And then, of course, you're keeping your safety gear on at all times. So that is a source of protection in itself.
Hey there, Podcast Aquanauts. It's your host, Casey here. Who doesn't love to be scared? We're creeping up now in October, which is when many of us start itching to chase the thrill of getting a little spooked. Yes, it's almost that time of year when the nights stretch out longer and longer and your feed begins filling up with costume ideas and it's made up, or is it, creepypasta posts. In much the same way that we flock to ghost stories and slasher flicks, many people have a love to be scared relationship with nature's most dangerous animals. It's why generations of cinema fans have hit repeat on movies like Jaws, Anaconda, Arachnophobia, The Birds, and The Revenant. Sure, that's just Hollywood being Hollywood, but we're also enamored of documentary and reality shows like National Geographic's World's Deadliest, Deadly 60, Swamp People, and even, to some extent, The Crocodile Hunter. From the safety of our couches or with a thick acrylic panel between us and them, there's just something that we find primally delightful about watching a powerful predator hunting or contemplating the potency of a jellyfish or insect's venom. But what about actually working with those animals? How can you protect yourself while caring for animals whose adaptations would make it all too easy for them to hurt you, intended or not? In this episode, we'll meet a trio of the aquarium's animal care gurus who work with species that could be considered dangerous, if not always for the reasons you might expect. From jellyfish stings and electric eel shocks to surprisingly feisty turtles, this is one thrill ride of an episode. So let's get things rolling, shall we? On with the podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Podcast Aquatic, the official podcast of the Tennessee Aquarium. Today, let's talk about dangerous animals. And I'm using air quotes now, dangerous animals here at the aquarium. This is actually, we've done some listener-suggested topics before on the show, but this is the first time that I'm doing a topic that was suggested by someone who works with me, and that person happens to be sitting right across from me and is a guest on today's episode, Kimberly Hurt. Go ahead and tell us what your title is and why this is something that you wanted to talk about.
Hello, I am a senior aquarist, and I'm honestly surprised this is the first topic that has been suggested to you from within. It came to me because it kind of is one of the first things that people love to ask you when they find out that you work at the aquarium. So people will hear that, oh, you work with the fish. Oh, so you dive with the sharks. Aren't you scared? Aren't they scary? Aren't they so dangerous? And then I have to gently redirect and go, well, okay, so I don't actually even work with the sharks. But most of the stuff we work with is not quite as dangerous as people want to gut reaction think.
Well, we're all shark adjacent. I think it's fair to describe even my job as shark adjacent.
Yeah, it's not that I never work with the sharks, but those are not my home base, we'll say.
Fair enough. Moving around the table, our other guests on today's show are a couple of repeats, returning stars, we'll call you. Rachel Thayer, who you've been on the show three times?
Is this 3? This might be number 3.
Okay. Yeah. So you're our assistant curator of fishes, and let's do a quick overview of what all of that entails. What does your job involve?
Basically, I'm an assistant manager for the fish people, is what I usually tell everyone who asks. So a lot of regular assistant manager duties like scheduling and time off and just being there to help and support everybody. And then I have my own responsibilities as an aquarist, which is to raise the jellyfish.
Yay, jellyfish.
Yay, jellyfish.
That's why you're on today's episode. And I forgot, Kimberly, why would you in particular want to be on an episode about dangerous animals since you don't work with sharks, as you've already said?
Well, I have two other animals that people would then consider dangerous. So
Dun, dun, dun. What are they?
they are the electric eel and then also the giant freshwater pufferfish.
Awesome. All right, so we've got pufferfish and electric eels and jellyfish. This is already sounding very scary. And then next to you, Rachel, is another returning guest to the podcast, Jennifer McPheeters. Jennifer is our lead animal care specialist, River Journey. This time we nailed it. We know what your title is.
We did it.
And Jennifer, you are on the podcast because your animal, your quote, dangerous animal is what?
My dangerous animal is the American alligators and the dwarf crocodile.
Ooh, I didn't even think about the dwarf crocodile, but yeah, you are our crocodilian specialist
And
here.
of course, a lot of other things are dangerous too that we work with.
We'll get into that. Let's get into it. So, Kimberly, you work with, you said pufferfish and electric eels. We've talked about Rachel working with jellyfish, and then obviously Jennifer just talked about crocodiles and alligators. Have any of you worked with other animals that would be considered by people who maybe are not familiar with them to be dangerous?
Yes.
Okay, what are they?
Let me go first because mine's the obvious answer. In college, I worked at an animal shelter, like cats and dogs, and those were actually incredibly dangerous animals working there with strays. There were some bad encounters there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was not the direction I was expecting this to go. I sometimes worry as I listen back to old episodes that my cat person is showing because there have been a few too many times where I just instinctually say, dogs are dangerous. No, dogs are dangerous. Sharks aren't dangerous. Dogs
I was
are much more dangerous.
inclusive. I said both cats and dogs. I had most of the animals that we dealt with there were nice and friendly and kind, but there's a handful.
However, I would say that a cat is probably not likely to attack and kill you.
You just come over and meet my cat.
It depends on the cat.
My cat's real bad.
Maybe not small
Real
cats, but what about big cats?
So I worked with
That's
jaguars. Yeah. I worked with jaguars as a zookeeper, and they are very dangerous animals, and there were a lot of safety precautions, and it was a lot of anxiety being responsible for an animal that's that powerful and that strong and needed to be contained and safely, and being able to work and train with them through layers of protection.
And then Jennifer?
So I'd say prior to here, for those who don't know, the most diabolically evil animal I think in the world is penguins. And I've worked with multiple species of penguins now, and I have the bruises and the bites and the blood draws.
I literally have a bruise on my leg from being bit by a penguin during our Rock Day event earlier this week.
Yeah, I've had so many. I've had more doctors ask about that. Like, oh my gosh, what is all this? I'm like, oh, it's penguins. So I would definitely say penguins. I did briefly intern with beluga whales, which was dangerous on a different level. More of that was just kind of the environment they were in, and if you ended up in the water with them. So just kind of taking those precautions. So not as much as maybe jaguars hand to hand, but just kind of a different level of danger.
So when you're working with dangerous animals, whether those are the animals that you're currently working with now at the aquarium or the ones you've worked with in the past, as someone who is an animal care specialist or an aquarist, do you think differently about your job when you're interacting with animals that have the potential to cause you injury?
I think you have to. Hopefully your training teaches you to approach it differently. If you're a well-trained keeper of what in Tennessee we call a Class 1 animal, which is regulated by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. They are a state agency that oversees wildlife, and they tell us in categories what Tennessee sees as a dangerous animal or a Class 1 animal. And if you work at a zoo or an aquarium that has Class 1 animals, then you have to meet special requirements, safety requirements, and training, some of which is overseen by the TWRA, some seen by the USDA. So if you work at a facility that has those, then yeah, you should have special training that tells you how to approach your job every single day, to stay focused, to do certain checks with locks, with doors, with animal access, keeper access. There's an entirely different way to approach working with those animals than working with other animals that you may, go right in with and be safe being right next to them, penguins aside.
Yeah, and I think to expand upon that, not only is it dictated by TWRA, USDA, but we also have our own protocols, policies that we have written and constantly adjust.
Internally,
And
so at
adapt
the aquarium.
internally at the aquarium that we use on not just our class 1 animals, but a lot of our animals that we work with every day.
Sometimes things need to change. Sometimes policies need to be updated. Sometimes, a committee gets together and says, hey, I was at this conference and I saw this really great talk where they use these safety measures, and I really think it's important for us to implement those. And then that happens.
Kimberly, what about you? I mean, do you think differently when you're interacting with the electric eel, the puffers, or maybe in the past when you're interacting with the Doberman?
I mean, so it's not quite as serious as what Rachel was talking about. It's not like I have to check locks or anything. My electric eel and my pufferfish are well contained within the water. They're not going to escape on me. But you do have to have a certain mindset when you're going into like work in those areas. So more of just making sure that you have your protective gear with you.
I imagine it's not just a matter of protocol. Even if you set protocol to the side, it's just a matter of just kind of respect for what that animal is capable of. It's not even if the rules didn't exist, you would, out of respect for the potential, just treat them differently.
Yeah, I think one of the most dangerous things that you can do as the keeper or aquarist is to be complacent.
And I think another thing to have is a game plan. The forethought of like, okay, maybe I've done this interaction so many times, but still
If something changes today.
If it changes.
Yeah.
Well, and so Jennifer, I brought you in thinking specifically of the alligators and the crocodile. Well, I say the crocodile. I actually forgot about the crocodile until we started the episode. But it occurred to me as I was writing these questions and thinking through it, that actually you also work with another dangerous animal that is the only animal I can think of at the aquarium that I've had the need to maybe be around physically and have not been able to because of regulations that are a direct result of the fact that they are dangerous, and that would be the otters.
Because they're so cute, people don't think of them as dangerous.
Yeah. People look at them and think of them in kind of like Disney-fied terms, like they are, oh, look at how cute they are. And because they are cute, they cannot possibly pose a danger to you. But I don't think that's the case, because every time we've brought up the possibility on the comms team of let's do something where we can get in around the otters, or we have to kind of work around the fact that that's not true, that you will tell us you cannot do that. We can't do that.
I can't do that. None of us do that. So yeah, the otters are too cute for their own good. And it's a challenge. We're kind of back to that whole, you have a barrier between you and an otter at all times, and you don't go into that space with them. And yeah, they're way too cute, and you think they're not going to do anything, but they have very sharp nails, and they also have very sharp teeth. They're very quick. They kind of are like mercury. They just kind of become goo sometimes, and they make themselves fit in spots that you wouldn't imagine them fitting in. I remember when we were working on building out our renovation for our otter exhibit, and we had them at an offsite facility that we had built, and the first day we put them in there, they almost got underneath a fence. And I looked at the people in charge and I was like, guess what? We need a different fence. How do we do that like right now in this moment? And it was a quick and easy fix. But even when you think with all of these animals, all the tricks to what they may try or do, it is still a wild animal. And you have to respect that and understand that it's going to change, and every individual is going to be different. And as they change in their lifespan, they're going to react differently too.
Yeah, the wild animal part of it, I think, is the part that needs to be almost tattooed on your forearms. Like, you constantly need to remember that these are not animals that are domesticated. They're not docile. They are literally wild. And by design, we wouldn't want them not to be wild. So, I mean, if we could remove the things about them that make them dangerous, I think that would make them less worth exhibiting, because it wouldn't show what that animal is like, true to its nature.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's impossible. Just outright, you cannot unwild them. And I think that anyone who has seen any documentary about people owning exotic pets, or not even a intentionally exotic pet, but brought, rescued so to speak, a wild animal and brought it into their home, usually they find out that, oh, this is not a domesticated animal. This has not been through generations and generations and generations of intentional breeding by humans for certain personality traits. These are animals that are from the woods, from the jungle, from the ocean, from the air, wherever, and they still live that way in their instincts.
Well, and even animals that are quote unquote domesticated, dogs and cats. Looking at you, Kimberly. I mean, I think the fact that you even brought that up says a lot about a lot. That for tens of thousands of years, we've lived alongside animals like dogs and cats, and yet you still hear reports about a lot of injuries, even some deaths associated with an animal that, by all rights, by the definition of domesticated, you would maybe think you'd be able to trust not to act in an aggressive way toward you.
I imagine there are probably some farmers listening right now that would tell you the same thing about horses and cattle and other large farm animals as well.
Yeah, though it is, like you said, there's no way to remove the wild from an animal, not completely, I don't think.
No. And maybe wild isn't the right term, but it's it's a part of animal personalities
and instinct.
Right? Yeah.
And again, we don't want to remove that. That's, I think, part of the fun part. Not like, oh my gosh, it's so fun to work with a dangerous animal, but that's what makes it interesting to work with these animals, because again, they're responding in different ways every time, and just getting to know and learn about them and see how they're reacting, especially for the alligators this time of year. I love the winter in the swamp because it's cold, part one. Part two, everything just kind of chills out. And we get to kind of the springtime, things start moving around, and we get into almost this early summer, especially like today on a day where like 88 degrees outside.
We're recording in early April, just as a...
Oh, yes,
to pull back the curtain a little bit. I have no idea when this episode's going to go live. It is April 4th right now.
Yes, April 4th, and it's 88 degrees outside, and already all of the alligators in the swamp are like, let's go. There's manic energy. There's frantic, like, we're ready to go. We're ready to breed. We're ready to, work on their little hierarchy that they have. And so you really have to consider too the time of year sometimes that we work with these animals. You're going to get a lot different reaction and natural instinct from them.
I heard them bellowing in the swamp recently. It was the most magical experience. And I was like, wow, it really is. The seasons are changing.
And tiny dinosaur sounds are just fantastic in the morning. I love it.
Let's talk about bellowing. Since there are people who are listening to this who maybe have not heard of this phenomenon. So when you say an alligator is bellowing, what does that mean exactly?
So they are emitting kind of a low pulse vibration through their body, but it is very guttural sound. It really does kind of sound like a dinosaur. I'm not good at making that impression. You're not going to get it from me.
I won't make you.
Kimberly's got it. Kimberly's got
I don't have it.
She's got it. But yeah, and
I'm keeping it in.
They do it even if there aren't females present. It is often a breeding behavior, and it's that, again, springtime is here, and facilities that house many, many, many more alligators than I do, or the aquarium does, it's just, it's nonstop. You can't ever unhear it this time of year. And so they're emitting that frequency, and the larger they get, it's really cool too. That frequency will start to dance on the water, and it's called a water dance. So if you're listening and you want to know, look up American alligator water dance. It's very cool. The head is going to come up, the tail will extend up as well. And they kind of just do push-ups, really. That's kind of the motion in the water or on the land. And yeah, they're emitting this guttural sound. You can even see it if they're out of the water, even coming from that throat area.
I mean, who wouldn't be impressed?
I'm impressed.
What gal wouldn't be impressed by that show?
I was certainly impressed.
Yes, we're all impressed. I love it. And I love that we have alligators that are the age to be able to do this. It's a lot of fun.
So given the fact that, as we pointed out already a few times, these are wild animals, and if they're acting in an aggressive way, even if it's just instinctual, there is a possibility for a negative interaction to happen. Was that something that tempered your enthusiasm for entering this field in any way? Did it inform or in any way temper your, like I said, your enthusiasm for getting to work with animals every day, knowing that there's the potential for them to act in a way that was maybe physically aggressive?
It did not hamper my desire, because I was working with the cats and dogs, the scary cats and dogs, in college, and that was before I had even graduated and entered this field. So I knew very early on that animals could be dangerous, and it did not discourage me at all. And for comparison, now the animals I'm working with, I'm not quite as wary of them as I was some of those cats and dogs.
Yeah, same. I was trying to remember and reflect back, like when I was in college, like what was I thinking about? And I know that like my goal as a college student in zoology was like, I want to work with lions. Like that's my thing. I'm going to do that one day. I never worked with lions. I did work with other big cats, and that was cool too. But no, I think because I wasn't afraid of them, I respected them the whole time. I knew that this is like, it's not even a job-related risk. Like I think that if you called it that, then you're anticipating it to happen way more than it should ever happen to you on the job. It's something that should never happen to you if you are well-trained and you're doing all your checks and you're being safe in your job. You should not encounter this happen to you. Do you hear about it happening some places? Yes. And those usually are, unfortunately, someone made an error in their routine that day is what usually happens. So I think...
So it's human-induced.
Yes, that's what I'm politely trying to say.
It's okay. We can point the finger at humans. We do it all the time on this show.
That is true. Maybe I was being overly protective.
Too polite. You're being too polite towards Homo sapiens.
Too polite towards humans. But no, I have given safety its respect and its due time and a lot of thought throughout my career, but it has never dissuaded me. That's not to say that I wasn't relieved when I stopped working class 1 animals and was like, oh my gosh, when are the jaguar escape dreams going to stop? And they did. Because like the anxiety and the responsibility was a lot. And so I'm glad that that's not part of my everyday job now.
So jellies aren't a class 1 animal then?
They're not a class 1 animal.
Are they? What class are they?
I don't know. They're probably not classified because they're invertebrates.
Class J.
I think it goes through 5, if I'm not mistaken. They might be considered a class 5, or TWRA and USDA are like,
There aren't a lot of wild jellyfish rolling around.
What even is a jellyfish?
That's another podcast episode.
Yeah, it is.
That actually was brought up to me earlier today. If someone was suggesting doing a podcast episode about jellies.
Well,
they suggested calling you the queen of jellies, much like Daenerys Targaryen as the queen of dragons.
Mother of,
sorry.
Please. It's been too long since you've watched the show, obviously.
Never
read
watched.
the books. That's right. I forgot you're a purist.
Never watched
My mistake.
the show.
Yeah, well, and it would be your most popular podcast episode ever, obviously.
Probably.
But
Probably you're right.
No, jellies are not classified as class 1 animals. Although the description says like inherently dangerous to humans, so I guess you could make a case.
I think for me, when I started in, I guess, my undergraduate, and most of that was being in the environment. So we were seining up fish, we were catching fish, we were doing wild dolphin studies, some of them in the water, some of them not in the water. And that safety already came in there because what college running a marine science program hadn't thought about safety. Of course, it was on the forefront of their minds. So I think it started early for me, but that is not to say going to school in Florida gave me any type of background in alligators, because I was specifically saltwater fish when I went to school. And so I got here and it was a whole different ballgame, and it was a whole lot of freshwater fish. And they said, hey, guess what? You get the swamp. And I was like, the swamp? I guess we'll go for a walk. And I remember my boss still today, Kevin Calhoun, took me into the swamp and said, great, let's go see what the alligator thinks of you. And I'm thinking, oh, what is the alligator going to think of me? And thankfully she thought nothing. It was great. And we became very good friends after that. So I got to work with her and she taught me a lot. And I think I had a very healthy respect, but I did have a lot more caution with her. And at the time, we also had a large collection of snakes. And so that was kind of my introduction. So I did have a bit more hesitation with those animals in particular. I did play a role in the otter program at that time. And again, understood and recognized that. That one was easier, I think, for me to recognize. Again, it's the locks and you're not sharing the space, but the little things, and like the musk turtle that, you know, decided to pinch the very tip of my finger because I had no idea his neck was that long. It was a bit of a learning curve for me in the reptile area. But again, I think I've always, as Rachel said, had, you know, safety at the forefront of my mind and trying to think it through, have that game plan, and not ever put yourself in such a situation.
Before we move on, when you say a big girl, tell people how big the alligator was, so they have an idea. Because our current alligators are between, what, 3 and 4 feet?
Oh, no, they're coming up on, they're like somewhere between 5 and 6 feet.
Are they really that big?
35 to 40 pounds.
Wow, I didn't realize they got that big.
The tail gets you every time. I would love to say that I'm like an amazing estimator at alligator sizes because I've been watching multiple groups now that we've had at the Tennessee Aquarium grow. And every time it's the darn tail. It just keeps going. And I'm like, okay, yep, my 4-foot estimate was totally off. So yeah, they're a little bit bigger than you expect. But our big girl, she was around 8 feet. At that time, we did not have a scale in that space, so I don't actually know what she weighed. If I were to estimate, I'm going to say a couple 100 pounds.
Did she have a name? That's what it was.
I just called her Lady.
Lady.
Just Lady.
That's elegant.
A
Yeah.
couple 100 pounds. That's a big.
She was a big girl, and again, I learned a lot from her. She taught me a lot of things. I'm glad to have gotten to work with her, and now I got 9 fiery little spicy chicken nuggets.
Troublemakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, we have talked around the topic of wild animals and the potential for them to cause harm. Have any of you actually been harmed? Well, clearly a musk turtle must have had its way with Jennifer. Have any of you actually had any encounters with an animal that you work with that have been have resulted in an injury?
Yes and no. I think I've had a lot of near misses that have taught me a lot. And Kimberly was present for one of those. And that was our dwarf crocodile, because I went into it thinking, okay, dwarf crocodile, it's like an alligator, right? No, much faster. And so I think that initial learn for me taught me so much, and just literally a 10-second catch one day that we were trying with her.
What do you mean? What a catch?
We were getting her out for a veterinary evaluation.
Was that just recently, just a couple weeks ago?
No, that was a couple years ago. When I first took over her care, it was you, me, and Elaine, and I was like, huh. And what she basically ended up doing was she did go to bite me, and thankfully I saw it coming and had already again gone into it with the understanding of like, this is going to be different. But again, I was a little probably full of myself, and I shouldn't have been. But thankfully, she ended up just missing and going past my hand. So instead, all she ended up doing was kind of bruising my finger.
You must have played this off so well in the time.
Thank you.
I don't remember this at all.
Thank you. Good. Yeah. No, I just ended up with a bruised pinky, and I was very thankful.
She was focused. She was in the game.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of little things. I've had tiny, tiny little snakes that just will pop and get you. But thankfully, nothing crazy with reptiles. I did have an otter bite because I was cleaning and I had picked up a drain cover and forgot. And so when I put said foot into drain cover, or that was missing, and I fell into the drain, I put my hands out in front of me, as we all kind of do when we fall on something. Mm-hmm. And just the tiny tip of my finger went through our mesh. And our oldest otter at the time was Delmar. And he got it. And I was like,
he took his chance. He saw his one moment.
He did. He made it shine. And I remember calling my boss, and then another person that worked for us at the time took me to the urgent care. And I was just thinking, okay, this is a lot of pain. This is more pain than I've ever been in. And I got there, and the first thing, I just wanted it clean. I wanted to see what it looked like because it was not pretty. It was the tiniest little thing. I'm so thankful for this. It went around the fingernail itself, so I don't even have a scar to talk about. It's not even that cool. But I remember the doctor saying, "What bit you?" Because that just floored them to begin with.
What species of mouse was this?
Yeah, exactly. North American river otter. And they were like, "What?" And I was like, "I work clearly at the aquarium." And he just wanted to make sure it wasn't crushed. that was his biggest thing. Was he literally in that moment Googled what a river otter was and like saw it had a crazy bite pressure, and he was like, we got to x-ray your hand. And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought. Yeah, let's look at my bones. Great, they were fine. So those are really my two, and I am thankful that that's really all it is. I have gotten a lot of cuts from turtles and alligators when taking them for veterinary procedures, because again, otters have really sharp fingernails, but so do turtles, and soft shells are they love to scratch to try to get away, and they're very slippery. It's like a stingray and a turtle had a baby, and that is a soft shell. So they're very slippery turtles, very powerful, strong claws on those nails. And then alligators will get you just because sometimes, even though their teeth are not supposed to, sometimes they hang out of the garage a little bit of that is their mouth. And I think that's more what I've gotten is just like to go and move them. And I like, again, human induced, like, I'm like, oh, yep, that was your tooth outside your mouth, and now I'm cut on my finger. So thankfully, nothing huge, but some little things here and there that have taught me a lot.
Each of this is a little lesson.
Yes, maybe a bigger lesson, but yes.
Thankfully,
lessons.
yeah, one you can carry, you can live from. Rachel.
I had a raccoon get me in the back of the leg once.
I didn't know you worked with raccoons.
Yeah. There were it was a group of 3 raccoons that were all housed together, and it was feeding time, and I was putting the food around, and one of them decided I didn't get the food out fast enough, I guess, and she had never done this before, but there's a first time and a last time for everything. So she went up and got me on just a bruise, basically, like I don't even remember it breaking the skin, but she got me. I think the Tamarins got me once because I went in to crate one of their family members for a vet exam, and they were concerned that I was taking one of their family members. And so they were like, I remember one of them got me on the back of the Achilles, and that hurt. Oh, God. And they're like, a Tamarin is a very, very
tiny
small,
monkey.
Yeah, small monkey. It's a very small mouth, but little needle teeth. And on the back of the Achilles, like I was limping. But that was pretty much it, thank goodness, aside from some stray jellyfish tentacles here and there. So,
Kimberly, I noticed that your hair isn't standing on end, so I'm assuming that you've probably not been zapped by an electric eel.
No, I have not. People love to ask me that, but we take really good safety precautions, as we have already mentioned. So I've never been zapped by the electric eel. Everything else that has gotten me here has been less exciting.
Like what?
So Oscar has slapped me once really good.
Oscar, our green sea turtle.
Yes, out at the offsite facility when we were doing medical treatments on him, and he was not happy to have those medical treatments. I got a full flipper to the diaphragm and had a really nice big...
Those are strong flippers too.
More of like a bruise across the belly, but he for sure knocked the wind out of me on that one. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Sea turtle imprint.
You reminded me too with the penguins. I volunteered with the penguins before I started working here, and I think it was Beaker got me good enough that I bled. I still have a scar from that one. It's in my tattoo now, so you can't see it anymore, but I did have a scar from a penguin bite. Mm-hmm. I have been bitten by the arowana in the flooded Amazon. That was not even a feeding incident. That was I was going to pull a water sample from the surface of the tank, and the arowana saw his chance and just nipped my finger.
Wow.
I think that's the only fish that's ever made me bleed, though. Just right on the edge of the finger. I thought I had one more.
Well, for my purposes, I don't work with animals as directly as any of you, but I work around animals a lot in the course of writing stories or making videos. Not doing podcasts. I've never done one in an animal exhibit before. Maybe that's where this should go next.
Oh, I did remember. It's not even like a bite or anything, but the first time that we handled some of the new Russian sturgeon that we just got last year, I didn't realize how sandpapery they are, and worked on them barehanded and lost most of the skin off of my hands. So
yikes!
I know better now to wear gloves when we're working with them, but that wasn't not even their fault. That one was entirely my fault.
Is their skin like a shark's? Is it dermal denticle kind of shaped, like skin, teeth, whatever?
So it's skin with scutes on it. So I don't know how closely that relates to the denticles that the sharks have, but it sure does share the sandpaper texture.
The Tennessee Aquarium's podcast Aquatic is made possible by support from the Tennessee Conservationist, the official magazine of Tennessee State Parks. Each issue is filled with fascinating stories about Tennessee's native species, rich history, and unique culture. It's also your guide to exploring state parks and planning your next outdoor adventure. Subscribe today at tnconservationist.org. I feel like for me, in working around animals, I think the only thing that's ever happened to me was I got bit through the shoe. It was like a cloth shoe that just didn't offer any kind of protection. I'm wearing something very similar to it right now by one of the radiated tortoises in our
lemurs. They do love to do that, nibble on your shoes.
And the penguins have not been too kind to me. I've been pecked and bit many times in the course of being out there covering, like I was putting out rocks or covering chicks and that sort of thing. And then I feel like I got hit by an alligator tail at one point.
Haven't we all?
So, and those are surprising. Those hurt more than you would think.
It's strong.
There's a lot of muscle in those tails.
Not here, but when I did a course from AZA, who is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and that's who we are accredited by. I did a course through them that was crocodilian biology and professional management, and we worked with the large alligators, well, all the sizes, but we were doing kind of like our final field day with them, and it was the large alligator restraint day. And so this is 13, 14, 15, 16-foot alligators.
Wow.
And another coworker was with me, and we were kind of bonded the entire time, but we did a lot of things separate. And on that day, I remember them very specifically saying, hey, we want you guys to do it together because you will do it as a team when you go back to work. We're like, great, cool. And we had another person with us, and they thought it would be fun to play a joke on our team because they thought we were the strongest team. And they didn't tie off one of the ropes, and we didn't check because we had literally watched them tie off the ropes for every single team, and we didn't even think that was possible. And 14, 15-foot alligator tail took out 3 adults. Just right over, right into the sand. So
good joke, guys.
Very powerful. Well,
good joke.
It was nice because we all recovered very quickly. I actually kept said coworker from literally landing in their pond, less than a foot behind us, and we actually were able to right ourselves, jump right back on restraint, and we passed with flying colors. But they were like, we knew that we couldn't really do that to anyone, but we thought we could do it to you, and you guys recovered super well. So there's a lot of power in animals, sometimes where you least expect it, and it's not always in the mouth, beak, teeth area. Mm-hmm. It could be a flipper. It could be a tail.
Skin. Tentacles.
Could be tentacles. Mm-hmm. So, Rachel, people who are listening to this and you hear that you work with jellies are probably thinking, they've been to the beach, maybe they've been stung by a jellyfish. I'm assuming that being stung by a jellyfish is sort of an occupational hazard.
It is, yeah. What usually happens is I'm aware of where the jellies are and where their tentacles are, but the tentacles can break off in small little pieces, which can be very, very hard to see in their exhibits in the water, and those are just floating around freely in there. So while I'm cleaning, I don't see those little bits, and they can still sting you, even if they're no longer attached to the jelly itself. Those little stinging cells are just hair triggered. They spring out anyway as soon as they touch you. So that's how I typically get stung, and I'll pull my hands back out of the water and I'll be like, oh, okay, yep. And then I have to peel the little tentacle piece off, and it's fine.
So the 2 species you're working with, you work with 3, I guess, right now.
Actually, we have 5 species. Some
really?
Are just in polyp form.
Okay. So, the ones that we have on exhibit, though, are the Pacific Sea Nettles and the moon jellyfish.
Correct.
So how do the stings of both of those species rate in terms of pain?
A moon jelly is a 0. Most people do not feel moon jelly stings at all. They are attempting to use their nematocyst. That's the name of the stinging cell, the nematocyst. But our skin is basically too thick for their type of stinging cell to get through. But in their polyp stage, it can be a little itchy. I don't know why it seems to be stronger in the polyp stage, but it must be some sort of protective thing. Pacific sea nettles feel like a sweat bee sting. So irritating. It's a nuisance, but it doesn't last very long, first of all. It's a few seconds and then you're good. I can see a little bit of redness usually from the sting later, but it doesn't hurt more than a couple seconds.
Now, in the past, though, back when we had our Jellies Living Art Gallery, which was the precursor to the Island Life Gallery that we have currently at the bottom of the Ocean Journey building, we had a lot more species. And when you were responsible for caring for a lot of different species beyond those two. So what would the species be that maybe had the strongest sting that you had to care for?
I have heard, this is not personal experience, that the flower hat jellies have a pretty nasty sting from other people who have cultured them, raised them, and I don't know if it was an accident or curiosity, but the call of the void perhaps led them to see what the sting feels like, and I've heard that one's pretty bad. But the strongest one that I have felt is the Atlantic sea nettle, which we did have in Jellies Living Art, and we do still keep their polyps in our quarantine room in our jelly culturing area.
They're also white, aren't they?
They are. They're like a milky white.
Yeah.
They can sometimes have some brown in them, but they feel more like when you get hand sanitizer in a paper cut. Like it's a little bit stronger, and it lasts a little longer too.
Okay, so we started off the episode with me using air quotes and having to tell you that I was using air quotes about these animals and describing them as dangerous. So circling back to that, do the three of you consider the animals you work with, puffers, electric eel, jellies, crocodiles, otters, do you consider them dangerous?
I mean, they are for sure still dangerous, but it gets to a point where I think you are familiar enough with your animals and you learn the safety practices that you are smart enough to know how to avoid the danger at that point. With the electric eel, for example, I used to be terrified of them when I first started working with those eels. And anytime that we would have to do anything with them, I would be shaking, like absolutely shaking all over. When we had to move the eels or do medical examinations on them, any of that sort of thing. And we had to do one just earlier this year, and that was the first time I was not shaking while we were doing a whole electric eel move.
You always seem so confident with them. I'm surprised to hear you say that.
I'm glad that it comes off that way. But it took a lot of learning for me to, understand how the animal's going to move and understand how he's going to react to my movement and work with each other. And then, of course, you're keeping your safety gear on at all times. So that is a source of protection in itself. And then the pufferfish, we do have to keep a good respect of too. I think he's another one that people would not consider dangerous just looking at him because he's so dopey and cute, and he's just got the
Very
nicest
cute
little face.
He always looks like he's smiling.
Oh yeah, he's got the sort of little innocent smile. But they do have powerful jaws and powerful teeth because they are like rodents. Those teeth grow continually. So what they eat in the wild is hard-shelled things like clams and mussels and crayfish, stuff that they need to be able to crush the shell of. So those teeth have crushing capabilities. We've had an incident where he got a hold of a diver in the exhibit at one point. It wasn't me. It was a volunteer diver we had in there. She got just a little nip on the back of a hand through gloves, but it was bad enough that he brought blood to the surface.
Wow.
So now we have to be really cautious of him when we are diving that exhibit. You have to keep one eye over your shoulder the whole time you're watching. And in that exhibit now I use a long-handled scrub brush so that if he gets too close to me, I can just sort of gently push him away, nudge him away.
And so we should say the exhibit you're talking about is Lake
Tanganyika.
Lake Tanganyika,
yes.
And that's in our Rivers of the World gallery. And so it's the electric eel. So the electric eel is in his own exhibit.
Yes, they're in separate exhibits, but at those different tanks we have different safety precautions.
All right, Rachel, jellies, are they dangerous?
Some of them can be. We currently do not have any that I consider dangerous. It can be a little bit of a factor of your own personal reaction to things. So I don't react badly to any of the species that we currently have. But as a whole, yeah, there are some dangerous species of jellies out there.
What would be some examples of especially dangerous species of jellies?
If you look them up, the first thing that you're going to see is box jellies. There are a lot of different types and species of box jellies out there. They're not all this dangerous, but there are a couple that are very well known for causing death in humans. They are not around the continental U.S., They are in the Indo-Pacific region of the world. And if you go to some of those countries, anywhere like from Australia up through the Philippines.
Everything in Australia is dangerous.
Right. If you go to those beaches, you may see signs telling you of jellyfish warnings. You probably aren't going to see jellyfish warning signs around. Well, I haven't seen them at the beaches that I've been to in America. In the continental U.S., I've never seen a warning sign for jellies.
I've seen them before.
I've seen them often.
It's
the
probably
like purple flag warning at the beach of like there could be dangerous animals in the water.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I also had one wrap my leg when I lived in Jacksonville.
So that's probably a seasonal occurrence of a specific jellyfish that comes to that coast.
I've never actually seen the flag used. It's just one of the on the signs of
It
if
could
you
be.
see this flag, no.
Oh,
So-
I've seen it in use and may or may
When you
not have
go
disregarded it that
to
day.
some of the other countries that have the box jellies, they'll probably have a specific box jellyfish warning sign up because they have been known to cause death in people. When you look up other jellyfish deaths in the U.S., it's not because of the venom of the jellyfish. It's because of an anaphylactic reaction to being stung by the jellyfish.
Like a bee sting affecting some people much more intensely.
Yeah. So unfortunately, probably those people didn't know that they had an allergy or a bad reaction to jellyfish stings until they were in real trouble. But then there are the box jellies that their venom is strong enough to stop a human heart, for example. And so they cause death in that manner.
Jennifer?
Absolutely, yes. My animals are dangerous. The alligators, the dwarf crocodile, the otters, even some of our snakes, we don't have anything venomous, but we have in the past. And again, just understanding that, as Kimberly was saying, she was getting comfortable with the eel and working each time. I don't know that I've ever had as much, like, I don't have the shaking, but I definitely have the, like, I can tell, like, I don't know, I guess I'm in keeper, like business mode, like this is what we are doing. And I have a plan from start to finish. And if I ever go after any animal, mammal, reptile, whatever it is, I always try, and this was most likely for like if they had an injury or to go see our veterinary staff, I treat that animal like it is perfectly healthy. Nothing is wrong with it. I just always have that plan that I go in with and am mindful of all of the experience that not only I have, but I've seen and or heard through other professionals that I've been around, and just try to go into it knowing what my outcome is before I just kind of wander in and do something.
In addition to a general awareness and a healthy amount of respect, what are the tools? You mentioned equipment earlier, Kimberly. So what, other than just having the right mindset, like you mentioned, Jennifer, what are the things that you equip yourself with to have a safe interaction as you're caring for these animals, both for your sake and to make sure the animal is safe?
Right. So with the pufferfish specifically, that is when I'm diving, a long-handled scrub brush, and pretty much every part of my skin is covered so that if he does get a wild hair, that I'm protected as I can be. And then when I'm not diving the system, when I'm just feeding, that feeding involves using tongs, anything to get my fingers a safe distance away from those crushing teeth when we are offering him food. With the electric eel, the safety equipment in that case is protective gloves. So they're sold as either like coral gloves or pond gloves, that they're full arm length gloves that essentially go all the way up to the shoulders.
They make you look like Dr. Frankenstein. You can just say it. You look like a mad scientist.
But those gloves insulate my skin from the electricity that the eel produces, so his electricity can't touch me and therefore it can't hurt me. So that's most of the safety gear that I use.
Okay. Rachel?
Mostly hot water. So I can do my best to avoid visually. That's one thing that also protects you from dangerous animals, is just being having an awareness of where is the animal right now, keeping your eyes on them, and being just aware of where you are in relation to the animal and keeping your space from them. So I can do that with jellies as well. Every time I'm cleaning, I can change the flow in their tank to get them to go to a different side while I'm working on this side of it, if it's one of our really long exhibits, or I can just put my like scrub brush in there and scrub one area, pull it out, wait for the jellies to kind of float by, go back in, that kind of thing. But as I've mentioned, those little pieces of tentacles still get me. And when that happens, then I just have to like physically pull the tentacle off and then go to the sink and run hot water.
So when you mentioned the box jellyfish, I know that in Australia, that one of the ways that they protect from box jellyfish stings is to wear like, I want to say it's pantyhose when they go into the water, because the pantyhose is just thick enough to, I guess, keep the nematocysts from penetrating.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are familiar with, rash guards and things like that for swimming in areas like that. That's probably a decent layer of protection, honestly, against most species of jellies.
Jennifer, do you have any special equipment when you're working with alligators or with otters to keep yourself or to keep them safe, or both?
Yeah, some of both, and some of it has already been touched on. Long tongs for feeding, trying to make your hand as far away from the animal as you can. But we also have boots that we wear. We have different gloves. We have catch poles. We have, at Otters, like we have wooden baffle boards, which is just a big piece of plywood essentially with some handles on it for, basically when we do our drills for like if an otter had gotten out. Otherwise, those boards just sit around and collect dust. But we do have them so that if we have to use them, they are there. We also have long pants in those areas. We have sometimes even waders to protect from getting wet, but also have more protection on your body if you're getting in the water with the alligators. And things like knee pads if we're restraining and or moving alligators for veterinary exams. Lots of different tools. At different times we've had to, again, kind of change and update the protective equipment that we've used that we were talking about earlier, just kind of changing those protocols.
Okay. So we're closing in on an hour, which is about the runtime of these episodes usually. So I wanted to end by just doing a quick quiz. And hopefully I fed you all the questions ahead of time, but I'm hoping that none of you actually looked up this article. Are you going to be honest with me? Okay.
I didn't look up anything. I came completely unprepared.
I appreciate that.
I did not look it up, but I tried to think about what I thought could be on the list.
Okay. So this is a list of the 10 most dangerous animals in the world, just so we can establish for the listeners what actually would be considered an animal that has led to fatalities among humans. This is a BBC Science Focus article. So I'd like you all to just tell me what you think, what you expect to be on the list.
Hippos.
Okay.
I
beat me to
really
hippos.
expect domesticated dogs to be on that list.
Okay.
Hippos.
I'm going to
Bison.
go
Cattle.
elephant.
Cattle.
I'm going to go elephant.
Elephant. Okay.
I think cattle have to be on there.
Cattle,
Cows
probably.
and bulls, those are
Hear me out. Poison dart frog.
no.
Because they're not here. Because for the listener, if you just don't know,
Bees?
poison
Well,
dart frogs
I
get it
guess-
from the food that they eat.
How are they
But I'm
ranking these danger
by
animals?
deaths or
risk
by
of
injuries?
death or risk
By number of deaths per year.
number
Okay.
of deaths
Like
per year.
bears.
People aren't dying from
That's
poison
fair.
dart
That's
frogs.
fair. Okay, mosquitoes.
So I put dogs back up.
Oh, yeah,
back up
mosquitoes.
at the top
That's
of
a
that
good one.
list.
Okay.
Parasites.
Okay.
I guess we got to throw out sharks. I'm going to go
No.
with great white.
It's such a small number.
I know,
It's
but I
really-
feel like it could.
Bears.
Bears. That's a
Maybe.
Like
there's
mountain
there's
lions.
increasing conflict between humans and bears.
All right. One more guess each, and then I'll go through the list.
We're really
As the
overthinking
reptile
this.
person. I'm going to go
Seagulls.
with the venomous snake.
Seagulls could be jerks. I've never heard of a seagull-related fatality.
I want to say kangaroos.
Okay.
You see people doing dumb things with kangaroos all the time.
All right.
On that note, I do just want to say, we see a lot of things that are not super smart on social media. And to reference all the way back to how we started with Rachel, we don't want things to be biting us. And if that happens way too often, probably you shouldn't be in this field. But social media is a wild place to see a lot of bad things happen. Hopefully some good things too, but
White-tailed deer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. These are all really good guesses, and you've hit a few of them. You've hit actually. I think probably the majority of the list has actually been named already, but we'll go down it anyway.
she beat me to hippo. I'm still a little upset. That was going to be my number one.
So, count yourself lucky, Rachel, that you did not work with lions because lions are on this list.
Genuinely?
Number 10 is lions. They
Okay,
kill,
number 10.
Number 10.
Okay.
kill, and the number,
Well, and
whatever
those-
number you think it is, it's going to be lower than that. It's 200 deaths a year
Okay.
are attributed to lions.
I'm glad there's that many lions out there.
Hippos were mentioned. Hippos, 500 deaths a year.
Knew it.
Which is, if you don't know, you might be surprised. But I mean, if you've read anything up about hippos, or if you just pause and think about it, they are enormous animals. They are extremely territorial. They've got enormous teeth. All of those things combined with the fact that if you're in an aquatic environment, you're already at a disadvantage.
They're
as a
very
human.
good in the water.
Not super surprising to see that on the list. Who mentioned elephants?
Me.
All right, so elephants are number 8. 600 deaths a year from elephants.
I was thinking it was a lot. There's a lot more elephants right now, which is a
Again,
good thing, but
Very, very
a lot
large
more
animal.
conflict.
Very large
Very
animal.
large animal.
So not super surprising. Jennifer, you work with the 7th most dangerous.
Ooh.
And I love the number
The dwarf,
seven.
the dwarf version of the most dangerous. So crocodiles are associated or are not accused.
Rightfully so. She deserves.
Not accused.
You're
They're not
so
accused
brave.
of it.
Thank
You're
you.
so brave.
1,000 deaths a year are attributed to crocodiles.
She's a powerhouse.
All right. No one mentioned this, I don't think. It's going to get surprisingly small, the animals, as we go forward. Number 6 is scorpions, which I feel... Okay, so I was talking this over with my wife as we were going down this list when I first came across it, that it's a little bit of a cheat to say all scorpions.
Right.
Like a species of scorpion.
Yeah, that's a huge
I think if you
range.
brought in our entomologist, she'd probably have some thoughts about how that could be broken down a little bit differently.
Probably. So, but scorpions are, and a lot of it has to do with where in the world these people are having these interactions. So, an interaction with the same animal in a place that has access to healthcare, that's ready access to healthcare, maybe have a very different outcome than one that happens in a.
Where in the world are animals killing people?
You should keep going with this. Keep on going. All right. Number 5, assassin bugs.
Assassin bugs, really? Those come into the house all the time.
For Chagas disease. So this goes again going.
See, parasites.
Mosquitoes are going to
So
be...
I
they
did
are.
say
So
parasites.
I heard you.
10,000 human deaths a year are attributed to assassin bugs. And again, it is because of where those interactions are happening and access to healthcare that is the leading cause of
I don't
what.
even know what an assassin bug is.
You've seen one.
So really, I think of all of you, the one who has worked with the most dangerous animal is Kimberly. So Kimberly, you are correct.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dogs, and in
knew
parentheses, it says rabies. So dogs are responsible for killing 59,000 people a year.
I knew it.
I feel justified as a cat person for having said
Me
that.
too.
For having said that.
No.
If you happen to perish in your home, they are going to eat you.
Yeah.
All right. This is another.
And they deserve to.
This is another one of those umbrella inclusions on this list that I don't necessarily agree with, and it is that snakes.
Oh, that's so broad.
It is
Very
extremely
broad.
Very
broad.
broad.
Though I looked this up, even though it includes all snakes, if you look at that, that's 138,000 deaths a year are attributable to snakes. And for reasons why you should not actually be as afraid of snakes, as a lot of people see our previous episode with our herpetologist and entomologist talking about why you should not actually be as afraid of spiders and venomous snakes as you maybe are if you have the phobias associated with those animals. But even if you consider just the most dangerous species of snake, the saw-scaled viper is the most dangerous snake.
Who is she?
I know. I've never even heard
Where
of her.
are we located?
I had never heard of that either. Anyway, the saw-scaled viper is responsible for more than 5,000 deaths a year. So even if it were just the saw-scaled viper, it would still warrant inclusion on this list based on the numbers that we've talked about thus far. Mm-hmm. All right, down to number 2. Actually, I guess we all technically work with the second most dangerous animal in the world, which is humans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did write down us. I did write down us.
And this is only considering homicides. I will link to the article that has this list in the show notes. So if you would like to review the reasons for all of these inclusions or learn a little bit
This
more
is
about
about to
why these
become a
animals,
true crime podcast.
it might do better. We might get even more listeners.
Okay, drum roll.
All
Number
right.
1.
Number 1.
Number 1 is, we've already mentioned it, but mosquitoes. So you are correct.
Yeah.
That was Jennifer, too.
Nice one, Jen.
And again, it's not so
My
much that
nemesis.
mosquitoes are out there piercing
Draining
the
you of
jugular of
blood.
people and making people bleed out. They are literally a vector for a lot of really terrible diseases.
Malaria.
like malaria.
And probably others.
And Zika.
Zika.
And there are a few others that are mosquito-borne illnesses that are responsible for 725,000 deaths a year.
And see, sharks weren't even on there.
No.
Nope.
And
for
you,
nary
sharks.
a mention.
Sorry I threw them out there.
And if you
Or
would like to know
stingrays.
if you would like to know more about stingrays or about sharks and why those animals are not as dangerous as you think they are, as pop culture would maybe have led you to believe, we have done episodes on both of those animals and a little bit deeper dive into the life history or natural history of those animals and why if there are deaths attributed to them, it's usually because we did something wrong. Anyway.
I think that's the theme right there, though.
Yep.
Human induced, as Rachel so eloquently said earlier. Human
most of the
induced
stuff we've talked
error.
about
Well,
of us
as Rachel
getting
tried
bit
not
or
to
whatever.
say, and then Casey said, let's just go ahead and say it. People
Let's
are the
get
problem.
the elephant out of the room.
It's true though.
Yeah, because elephants are on the list,
They're
and they are
dangerous.
very dangerous.
That is called an excellent segue to the end of the episode. So I will go ahead and wrap things up here by saying thank you very much to Kimberly Hurt, to Rachel Thayer, and to Jennifer McPheeters for taking the time to come to the Studio Dive Cage or make a repeat appearance at the Studio Dive Cage to talk about dangerous, quote-unquote, animals. And to Kimberly especially, thank you for not only making your first appearance, but suggesting the topic.
You're welcome.
Ooh,
Glad to be
Kimberly.
here.
Stay safe out there, guys.
Try to get yourself off the most dangerous list, the most dangerous animal list.
All right. If you have an idea for a future episode of the Podcast Aquatic, please send it to me at podcast@tnaqua.org. You can also send questions if you have a question for an expert like Kimberly, like Rachel, or like Jennifer. That same email address will suffice. And while you're online, make sure you leave us a review, or if you have the time, write us a review or leave us a rating. I always get those two things confused. But both of those are excellent free ways to support the show, and they're very much appreciated. And in the meantime, until next time, remember that every drop matters.